Welcome to Global Journeys with Jill Dutton, the captivating travel podcast that takes you on an extraordinary adventure around the world. I'm your host, Jill Dutton, and I am thrilled to be your guide through the mesmerizing tapestry of cultures, landscapes, and experiences that await us. Global Journeys with Jill Dutton is more than just a travel podcast. It's an exploration of humanity itself. Through the power of storytelling, we illuminate the lives of the remarkable individuals we encounter along the way. Whether it's through the eyes of a fishing guide, a distillery owner, a mixologist, a historian, chef, or even a farmer, each person we meet adds a rich layer to the narrative of culture and place. In this podcast, we embark on a transformative journey where the focus goes beyond the typical tourist attractions. Instead, we dive deep into the hearts and souls of the places we visit, uncovering the hidden gems and untold stories that make each destination truly unique. Join me as we venture off the beaten path, seeking authenticity, connection, and a deeper understanding of the world we inhabit. Together, we'll unravel the tapestry of cultures, one story at a time. Although my writing career began in the late 90s when I created and launched a wellness publication called Evolving Magazine, since 2015, I've worked as a travel writer on a mission to seek out the locally celebrated foods, liquor trends, outdoor activities, and stories of those I meet along the way. My work has been published in Wine Enthusiast, Afar, Woman's World, First for Women, Insider, Road Trippers, Modern Farmer, Chilled Magazine, and many more digital and print publications. I'm also the creator of Global Plates, The People We Meet, The Food They Eat, a syndicated column. Creating this podcast is the next step in my journey of sharing the stories of the people I've met along the way. So pack your curiosity, leave your preconceived notions behind, and let's embark on Global Journeys with Jill Dutton, where each episode promises to inspire, educate, and awaken the wanderlust within us all. Today we travel to New York State on a remarkable journey through the mesmerizing landscapes and hidden gems and flavors of the Sullivan Catskills. Nestled in the heart of New York State, the Sullivan Catskills is a region that's long been whispered about among intrepid travelers seeking solace and inspiration in nature's embrace. It's the home of U.S. fly fishing, and with its sprawling forests, pristine lakes, and picturesque mountains, this enchanting destination promises a tapestry of experiences that will ignite your sense of wonder. On a recent visit, I discovered agritourism, local foods, liquor trends, and a food festival located at Bethel Woods, the original Woodstock location. You can view my itinerary and use it to plan your own visit at globaljourneyswithjilldutton.com, or there's a link in this episode's notes. An integral part of the locale is a chef and restaurant owner who calls this place home. In today's episode, he'll take us on a journey of the Sullivan Catskills, but also offer a deeper look at his culinary styles, locally sourced wheat, and foraged food items. During my visit to the Catskills, I was fortunate enough to dine at Northern Farmhouse Pasta, where I met the owners Bob and Jen Eckert. Born in Queens, New York, Bob grew up on a small island called Broad Channel, where fishing was the town pastime. He says he spent his time on the water enjoying fresh seafood. Not a traditional chef background, Bob ran one of New York City's largest union carpentry companies with 350 employees. Bob and Jen started their pasta shop in 2011, and in 2014, Bob resigned from his job in New York City and moved full-time to Roscoe, New York in the Catskill Mountains to be with his wife Jen and their two boys. In 2015, the couple took their wholesale pasta business and started the restaurant. 8 years later, and the couple is still serving authentic Italian dishes using local ingredients. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Bob Eckert to Global Journeys with Jill Dutton. Bob, thank you for joining us today and sharing your insights about the Sullivan Catskills and your restaurant, Northern Farmhouse Pasta. We can't wait to embark on this incredible journey with you.
No problem. How you been? All right?
Oh, yeah. How about you?
You know what? All I can do is complain about the heat. It's the kitchen's been pretty warm, but besides that, we're blessed and everything's good.
Let's take a quick look at the Sullivan Catskills. I'm going to ask some rapid fire questions that you can respond to briefly, just a sentence at most, or two. The questions are designed to give the listener a quick overview of the destination. So just a couple sentences will be great. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. What do you believe the Sullivan Catskills is known for?
The Sullivan Catskills, I would say in a few words, would be the outdoors. It's small towns, great food, and the farms that are surrounding us here.
Fantastic, gorgeous, gorgeous scenery. And also, aren't you known for, and I know it's the home of fly fishing, or fly fishing was started there?
Yep. So the Roscoe area, the Sullivan Catskills, is the birthplace of fly fishing in America. It originated, from what they understand, in England, but yeah, this area is where it originated in America, and it's really steeped in that pretty deep since the 1800s.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you. So, what is your favorite activity? Is it something outdoors? Is it in the kitchen? And why would it be suited to your location? What is it about the Sullivan Catskills that you really enjoy doing?
It's fishing.
Is it?
It's fishing. It's what got me up here. I grew up on a really quaint small island as a kid and as an adult, and my wife was from up this region, and I learned about the art of fly fishing. And I wanted to get into that. And I started coming up here and just got into the whole scene of being in a river and fishing. And these days, yeah, it's fishing in a river, but it's also getting to a lake with a spinning rod and catching some bass that I enjoy.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So are there any hidden gems or lesser known spots in the region that you'd recommend to travelers visiting?
The one thing I would tell people is you can come up, you could stay places, but I always think just getting into the great outdoors here, whether it's the summer or the winter, I think the hidden gem is just experiencing it outdoors overnight. Now, everybody's not going to want to do that. And of course, these days there's glamping sites and everything, but at least you're getting out there somewhat. You can find a secret water hole or a beautiful view, but I think just being out there, looking at the clear sky or falling asleep in a tent with the snow falling on top of it is magical.
I agree. I agree. And that leads into, you mentioned time of year. When do you think is the best time to visit?
I'll tell you, the Sullivan Catskills has become, and everybody's going to say like, oh, it's great year round wherever they are. And there is places, people know there's things to do, but in the 23 years I've been up here, I will tell you the Sullivan Catskills has become a year-round destination because I believe, and especially after COVID, people learned that they can get outdoors. If you're in a city, you can get to a town like Roscoe where there's only 500, the population's 500 people versus, 8-9 million. Being up here now, it's people got outdoors after COVID, and now you can come during the summer. There's so much going on, and in the fall and the spring, but even in the winter time, you could just go out, get into the outdoors, hike, find a great little, coffee shop or an incredible restaurant or museum. So there's a lot year round here.
Fantastic. And do you have a best tip for someone planning to visit the Sullivan Catskills?
Don't plan.
Don't plan.
Don't plan. Plan how to get here, plan how to get back. But when you get here, maybe make a plan for one place, dinner or something like that. But just go with the flow. Talk to local shop owners. Talk to a waitress at a restaurant and ask her what she likes to do on her day off. An owner of a brewery or distillery, or just I find that's the best way to, you can come in and say you're going to do this, this, and this, and you really don't want to have a schedule when you're up here. It's a little laid back. You want to relax and just take it all in.
What do you think about the New York water?
Well, the water in the region, for the breweries and the distilleries, it affects it. I mean, what's kind of, I guess, an oxymoron or weird in a way is that, being somebody that grew up in the New York City area, you swear by the water in New York City. But what's funny is the water for New York City comes from 15 minutes down the road from where I live in Roscoe right now in the reservoir. Okay. So, yeah. So, I mean, listen, if the water up here is being distributed to 9 million people down in New York City, it must be good.
That's right. Well, thank you for the quick look at the Sullivan Catskills. I'm eager to learn more about you, though, and your stories. So on my trip, I was fortunate enough to dine at your restaurant, Northern Farmhouse Pasta. And the quaint, intimate location, it added to this experience of this explosion of flavors that I enjoyed. And two of the items that stood out for me were your wild ramp and prosciutto flatbread, and I was drunk on the flavor of those rams. I mean, because I've written about rams before, but I don't believe I've actually ever tasted them, especially so pungent and wonderful.
Yep.
It was just probably one of the top 5 foods I've ever tasted. And I loved it so much that I, as you know, took an order back to my cabin to have for breakfast. And then the second item was the savory oxtail ragu. That dish also took me back memories of my childhood, because my dad would cook oxtail soup on Sundays. It's slow cooking all day for Sunday supper. Yep. So if we could, let's start discussing these dishes, and then we'll move on to your personal story.
So actually, I'm going to ask you a question. What major city in America is named after wild ramps? And it's very close to you.
You're kidding me. I didn't even know Kansas.
Did I stump you?
Well,
back in the 1700s, there was an explorer and a botanist, and I can't remember their names, from England, and they were on Lake Superior, and they were talking to the Native Americans. And in England, wild ramps are called ramsons. So they were on the lakefront in Lake Superior, and they said, "Look at all these ramsons," and the Native Americans called them Chicagoos. Chicagoos, so hence the word Chicago is named after wild ramps. Yep.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Funny little tidbit when you go down a rabbit hole looking into wild ramps. Yeah, so wild ramps are, they're unique to, many places in the North. Years and years ago, they were huge down in West Virginia and places like that, but they almost got picked because people sell them, they make great money on them, but there's only a small window to gather them. Typically, April is the month is when you get the best ones. So we go out, or when I say I'll go out and pick them or check on when they're coming up. And we just, like you said, we love the flavor. It's really unique. It's got a garlicky, oniony flavor. And it's only this time of year. The bulbs, once they get thicker later in the season, in May, let's say, they're great for pickling. A lot of people will do that, but they're just a great product, and it's like the first green thing that you see in the woods. So once you go out into the woods and spring is coming through now, it's the first thing you see, and it gets exciting to get them.
I love it. So, and I'm curious, do you ever dehydrate any and use the dust in your recipes or anything like that? I know you said pickling.
Yeah, so we use them like on the flatbread. These days, mainly for a pesto. We used to do more wholesale before the restaurant, and we used to actually make a wild ramp fettuccine. Ooh. So we used to take the ramp and just blend the leaves. We only pick the leaves because we don't pick a lot. Like when we find a patch, we pick a little bit because you don't want to wipe them out. You want them to come back every year. So we just go in and we pick a little bit here and there, and then move on to another patch. But we used to use the leaves in a fettuccine, so it was this great earthy flavor, oniony, like I said, garlicky, which is real nice. But besides that, these days, mainly in a pesto, we use the more, like I said, the bulbs will get pickled. They usually don't get on the menu. I'll eat them before I put them on the menu.
Okay. And then the oxtail ragu, is using oxtail a unique ingredient to ragu? So I'm kind of curious what led you to this recipe and to put it on your menu.
Yeah, I remember seeing it somewhere way back when. It intrigued me, but I always liked, we had a lot of Spanish restaurants where I grew up in Queens, and you would go in and get like a oxtail stew with some rice, and I always loved it. And then started working with it. We were almost emulating the Spanish versions that I had as a kid, but then I learned more about putting it into a ragu, and what I learned was just the fattiness, the fat on an oxtail, it melts real quick. So it really coats everything and adds this incredible flavor. Unfortunately, these days, oxtail is almost, if not more expensive per pound of meat than filet mignon or something like that, because it's mostly bone, but the flavor is just intense. And we get it from local farmers, which really makes us happy.
Yes, very much. Okay, well, thank you for the insights into those two dishes. They were just,
Yeah.
I mean, been a couple months now since I was there, and I still can't stop thinking about them. So, thank you. So, if you would, let's talk a little bit about your culinary journey and how you wound up becoming a chef and opening a restaurant in the Sullivan Catskills.
Yeah. So my previous life, I was in construction, and I worked down in Manhattan mainly. I ran a company that still exists. We had about 400 union carpenters. In the 15 years I was with them, I did 31 high rises in Manhattan, a few very notable ones. And a lot of my time was spent taking clients out to dinner during the week, eating in phenomenal restaurants. And the one thing I always noticed just was, if you went to an Italian restaurant, it was about what was on the pasta, but it was never about the pasta. And I
Mm-hmm.
started researching it and making pasta on my own at home. And right away, semolina, that's what everybody knows to use. And I just started looking into, well, that's funny, semolina. What about, is this from the Northeast? Is this from New York? And then I learned that it doesn't grow here right now because it's just too humid, or it doesn't grow well.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the stuff is red wheat, which is the typical flour we all have in our pantry. So I started making pasta with that a little bit, trying different, whether it was a 00, if you want to call it, a white flour or a whole wheat flour. And we found something in the middle, which was what they call high extraction, or it's half the husk is sifted out, but it was as close in bite to semolina as I can get. I enjoyed doing it. And one thing led to another. I was like, well, let's start a pasta business. I was coming upstate on the weekends to be with my family. And I figured, well, maybe when I retire one day, we'll have a little pasta shop where we could just sell pasta at the farmers markets. And that'll be great. I get antsy real quick. So I was like, well, let's do it this summer. And we started doing a farmers market, did another farmers market. And this was around 2011. And in 2012, we were able to get a machine. So not everything was being done by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And we were still cutting everything, mixing everything. Yeah, it just started doing real well at the farmers markets, and we started selling pasta, and then we wound up really being recognized for it because we stepped back and we looked and we're like, wait, with all the restaurants in New York, nobody's doing, or not so much that, but nobody in New York is using 100% locally grown flour to make their pasta, and it blew my mind. So I was like, all right, this is cool, not knowing what it would lead to. And we really started making pasta, a lot of it. And around 2013, I had bought the building where the restaurant is. I thought, well, this would be a great place to have the pasta shop, and we could sell directly to people instead of running to all the farmers markets. As soon as we opened up, a month later, somebody was like, oh, we can't wait for your restaurant. I said, no, it's a pasta shop. They're like, no, but you could have a restaurant too. And I'm like, no, it's a pasta shop. And the wheels got turning in my head, and my wife thought I was out of my mind, which is typical. And we started more or less, I think it was July 5th, 2015, and didn't know what I was doing. I had no culinary training, just really enjoyed good food, loved to cook, but enjoyed the great food that I had at a lot of the restaurants in New York City. And that's it. We changed our menu every week. I just was really trying to teach myself. I was reading a lot about it, listening to podcasts and everything I could to see, what I was doing and how to make it better. And here we are, 8 years. A few days ago was our 8-year anniversary. So we're into our ninth.
Congratulations. Yes.
Yeah, we're into our 9th year now, and it's been fun. But we stopped the wholesale because doing the wholesale and the popularity of the restaurant was too much. But we really focused on the pasta being the common denominator, if you will, at the restaurant, and then we'll do things with it. But our goal always was from the beginning was to use 100% New York grown wheat. And it's an organic grain where we don't push that it's organic. It's awesome that it is, but it's grown along the Finger Lakes. In various farms grow it. And then there's one mill up there called Farmer Ground, and these guys, they'll mill it to order. So if I say I need 1,000 pounds, the date on the bag is a week before, so it's not something that's been sitting on a shelf somewhere for a year. Yeah. So and again, when we make our pasta, I mean, you look at a box of pasta you buy in the shop, in the store or something. There's a lot of ingredients. They're not bad, but they're fortifying it. When you look at the ingredients, when we were doing wholesale, it was water and New York wheat. That's it. None of these things added to it. Now at the restaurant, we do use egg in our pasta just because it's a little more luxurious. goes well with the foods that we're doing. We always have some pasta without egg if somebody's vegetarian or vegan. But yeah, the pasta's been the bulk of everything. But the restaurant is always, every week, it's just how do we make it better, or really how do we make it simpler? In the beginning, I got crazy with recipes. We literally were serving pulled pork, and half the pig's head would come out to the table with some buns and pickles and a bunch of forks.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, I still remember the first time, the first one I ever sold was an 11-year-old girl from Nashville, from Kentucky. I'm sorry, from Kentucky. And I was blown away that she bought it, and she dug right in. And we were doing a lot of crazy stuff. But when you're in a small town, sometimes people just want meat and potatoes or real simple stuff. And in the wintertime, you wanna get by. So there was one night where I was sitting with a phenomenal chef. I can't pronounce his last name. Axel is his name. He used to run things for a chain in the city called BLT, and then he wound up running the Four Seasons in Maryland, and now he's actually in charge of the 10 restaurants at the Yellowstone National Park. And just phenomenal guy. And one night we were sitting on the front deck of the restaurant, and I was talking about doing tasting menu, and that's what he did at this great restaurant up here, the Bruce. And he goes, Bob, don't do tasting menu. He goes, just do simple. People want simple food. They don't want, all this other stuff is great. It looks good, but you know what? They might come to the restaurant once a year or seasonal to have something different. But he goes, they're going to come to your restaurant for comfort food twice a week, or every weekend, and which is what we see. So we're trying to make it affordable, simple, and local ingredients as much as possible. Yeah.
And everything I tasted at your restaurant was wholesome and filling and flavorful. I mean, it was just fantastic. And like you said, comfort food, but it is something that I could see eating frequently versus, a tasting menu that you might do on occasion. My next question is, what are some of the favorite foraged ingredients from the Sullivan Catskills region, and how do you utilize them in your cooking?
So going through the year, we all start in April, May, foraging for wild rams, which is, like I was saying, one of the first things that we can get out here. Mm-hmm. Going into this time of year, you get wild watercress. The wild rams we'll use in pasta and dishes, the flatbread. This time of year, wild watercress we get to pick, which is like arugula in a way, real spicy, delicious. And we'll sometimes do a pesto with that, or sauce. And we also like to provide, do a salad with that, with other items that we could forage. Some days there might be a lot of dandelions popping up all around. So we'll go out and pick some dandelion leaves and make something with that. Mm-hmm. One of the big items up here, of course, different ones during the summer is mushrooms.
Oh, yes.
This time of year we get chicken mushrooms, which they're bright orange. They're real meaty. They're not watery, and they're delicious. Literally, you could fry it up with some breading and somebody would think of it as a chicken cutlet.
Oh my.
Yeah. So we'll use that in some dishes. Then, there's a few other things, but what happens during the summer, there's just a lot of products from the local farmers that we can utilize. But once we get back into the fall, we're looking at hen of the woods mushrooms, porcini mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, kind of year round when it's warm enough. But mushrooms become a big integral part of the dish. Like right now we have a dish with porcini mushrooms that's staying on year round, but we'll do various other ones as well.
Excellent. And I wonder if that's kind of a traditional, the umami of mushrooms, if it's a typical hearty fall kind of dish. Is that the reasoning? Yeah. Because that's when they're available?
Yeah, it is. On pasta, of course, it's just an incredible dish, and get that flavor, that umami flavor. Mm-hmm. But of course, what else is they're great with different meats. Doing some kind of mushroom sauce with meat in the fall. Since Roscoe's a big hunting community, this area, there's a lot of venison being, a lot of people out hunting, and mushrooms they just pair so incredible with that, and they keep well too. A lot of them, you're able to go out and get quite a bit, and some of them hold up real well if you package them right and freeze them, and we can get utilize them into the winter time.
Oh, it sounds delicious. Okay. Could you share maybe a memorable experience or story from your foraging adventures?
I think really out foraging, the one thing is you just don't know what animals are going to pop up, especially where we're at and in the wild with the
Hmm.
woods and all that. And
Hmm.
yeah, I got spooked by a porcupine one time, and it was a real big one. I didn't know they grew that big.
Oh gosh.
And I wasn't concerned about the quills or anything, but I was just set in my zone, picking ramps near a little ledge of rocks. And out of nowhere, I just heard some rustling right behind me. And I turned around. It was a pretty big porcupine, bigger than I anticipated, and kind of scared the crap out of me. So I walked away slowly and let him have his spot. It was his to begin with. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you.
yeah.
Any challenges that you face when working with locally sourced ingredients, or is it a process of educating your diners on the value of these local produce? Or, just if you could just tell me, I guess, a little bit about why you want to incorporate such hyper regional ingredients into your menu.
Yeah, I mean, because they're out there and it's just so many people don't know. I mean, I didn't know when I was a kid that I could go and, dandelions, for instance, they're a weed, but meanwhile, they're just tasty little green, full of nutrition. And,
Hmm.
and so people, don't understand that. And, being in such a small community, you put stuff on there and you have people that might be up here from the city that are interested in trying something different like that, where locals might be like, hey, wait a second, I just mowed that the other day. I'm not eating it. So it's really trying to have that conversation with them. And a lot of times, too, when it's on the menu long enough and people come back, they're like, hey, let me try it. Like we've talked about the oxtail ragu. It's one of my favorite dishes. And, it's something that people like, oh, oxtail, oh, it's a tail. But meanwhile, as kids, they probably had it in stew and never knew that that's the part it was. And once they get over that and they understand, hey, it's a piece of meat, it's delicious. So it's the same thing with a lot of the ingredients. I think up here, some of the major challenges, and it's more so a challenge for farmers, is bringing, whether they're raising cattle or something, there's no place to process them close. So a lot of these farmers have to drive 2-3 hours to a processing facility to have everything be taken care of and packaged up. It adds a cost to them, and hopefully one day somewhere in the Sullivan County area we'll have a facility. But it's also knowing what animals they're bringing. One farmer I deal with, mainly Hilly Acres Farm,
Hmm.
he'll call me up and tell me what he's bringing to the facilities for butchering, and he'll let me know, okay, we're bringing pork. Do you want your 30 pounds of ground pork? Yes. Or he's passing by and he'll drop off 40 or 30 pounds of ground beef or whatever it is that we're getting from him that week.
Hmm.
So it's working close with them, but understanding that the farmer's time is so, they got better things to be doing than talking to people and selling. They got animals to raise. And so it's really knowing the farmer and when you can get the stuff from them.
Wonderful. Well, finally, do you have any last thoughts about the Sullivan Catskills or anything that you just would like to share with the audience?
Someone that me being someone that grew up on an incredible, little island in Jamaica Bay and living on the water, and then getting to have a career in construction city and just seeing so many things and doing quite a bit of adventurous traveling from, heli-skiing up in Alaska to scuba diving off South America and this and that, climbing out in the Tetons. I'll tell you, the Catskills, I tell people the Catskills, Sullivan Catskills and the mountains around here have soul. Their
Mm,
stories, every little village is different. It's the one thing that really drew me in to being up here. I mean, besides my beautiful wife, but it's just the region. You can go from one town to the other, and there are chapters in a book. Sullivan County is a book with many chapters,
mhm.
and each of them has to be checked out. And I just recommend people, like I said, take the time. If you come in for 5 days or 4 days, try not to schedule every day and every time period. Just get up and go with the flow, and you'll figure it out. And if you miss something, especially if you're from like the city area, you're only an hour and a half
Mhm.
from us, and you can come back. It's just a great place, and talk to the people. People, if they have the time, they're at a farm or a farmer's market or a restaurant. Talk to them. They'll tell you the little hidden spots. You might find out a hidden swimming hole, something like that nobody knows about.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate you joining us today and sharing your experiences as not only a chef, but the Sullivan Catskills too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jill. I appreciate that.
As we come to the end of this episode of Global Journeys with Jill Dutton, I'd like to thank Bob Eckert for sharing his view of the Sullivan Catskills and the local culinary world where flavors are intertwined with a deep sense of locality. As we are on this exciting podcast journey together, I invite you, our incredible audience, to be a part of it. Share your own travel stories, insights, and recommendations with us. Whether you have a hidden gem in your hometown or a dream destination that has captured your imagination, we want to hear from you. Your suggestions will help shape the future episodes of Global Journeys, guiding us towards extraordinary locations and experiences that deserve a spotlight. Remember, this podcast is not about the host or the guests. It's about the collective exploration and discovery that unites us all as wanderers in this vast world. So reach out to us through our website, social media channels, or email, and let your voice be heard. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Global Journeys with Jill Dutton. Until next time, may your travels be filled with endless curiosity, open-hearted encounters, and transformative adventures. Safe travels, fellow explorers, and keep wandering.